Alright guys, Kremp here again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. After his first tournament for the Green Walls, Skyz has given his perspective on where the OpTic team are right now and where they're trying to go if they want to improve in the near future, because they will need to ensure they get a better seed to the World Championship and actually trying to win one of these remaining events this year. Skyz reckons their Hardpoint certainly could be better, and their Search and Destroy, though, given no practice with the team really going into the event, that was one of the key letdowns in their series against Toronto Ultra. Is there more to this, though, than meets the eye? Because that series against Toronto was not pretty by any means. Could they be involved in any of these Rostermania conversations? Very much into your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. It was 1 year ago yesterday now that FaZe won Major 2 in 2024, beating OpTic in the Grand Finals. This, of course, was that Miami event that FaZe eventually took the victory in, and, there was lots of drama, to be honest, during this entire tournament. And OpTic, of course, got the last laugh, but it was, feels in many respects a bit of a long time ago when it was very competitive between FaZe and OpTic. OpTic, of course, they were third, they were seconds, then eventually they won, they came 12th, then they won again. This year, they're nowhere near the required levels so far. It's been, top 8 in back-to-back tournaments for OpTic Texas. We very rarely see anything like that. Cellium continues his spree, obviously, as the most consecutive events with a 1 or more KD. That goes up to 26 now for Cellium. HyDra's at 24, of course, didn't have a great tournament, really. I think after his first 2 series, Brian said that he was actually at a 0.98. So, it was a bit precarious here for HyDra to lose this number. But in the end, he did get the job done in the final series, despite the fact that they bowed out, and he does extend his streak. Scrappy is here, Simp is here, Beans is here as well. I think it's just a little bit notable to see some of the players on this spree, because, Snoopy, CleanX, Drazah, Pred, and then you've got Geo, Insight, and Beans. So, Beans with 6 consecutive events at a 1-0 or above. It's pretty impressive, I think, given, that Toronto team and, of course, where he's been before, because Beans has been all around the scene over the last couple of years, Ravens, Boston, etc., etc. Largely just because no team has given him a chance to start out the season on a team. That's happened this year, and it seems to be working out pretty well for Toronto so far. Now, there was a bit of drama this weekend. Actually, a lot of drama. Here's Simp on the main stage talking all kinds of trash. We got a lot of this, and I think, I hope we have more of it to come, let's say, and they can set the venue up this way. My understanding is the venue in Miami is going to be a bit smaller, well, a lot smaller than we had here in Texas, so I'm not sure this kind of stage is going to work everywhere, because it does, depending on the size of the space, it takes a bit more room, because depending on the size of the space you've got, this stage does take up more real estate, because on a typical rectangular, let's say, floor area, you can push the stage if you have the teams side by side, as they typically have been before this tournament where they face each other. That can just be another rectangle you put to the back of everything with all the production stuff behind it. Doing it this way, it's better, but it does take up more space because you can't exactly have fans and everything around the side. You can in this type of venue space when you have fans obviously on the side wall, and they can watch on kind of where we were from the suites and stuff, and everyone in those seats, which are really good seats as well. But if you have limited space, this stage may become less viable. So I'm certainly hoping that maybe Major 4 in DreamHack it can be done. I think there's a pretty big space for the COD event there. And then, of course, Kitchener, God, for the World Championship, that's, that potentially is an option as well to do the same thing. But I think many would definitely welcome it. And there was loads of talk about the trash talk from the players this weekend. Neptune's one still lives rent-free in my head. The Neptune versus Beans drama was comedy. And long may that continue. But as Rafi says, best trash talkers ever. We got Clay, we got Aches, we got Miracles, of course, or Legends, and Scrap, throwing him into the conversation too. Now, there's plenty of names here that could come to mind. I mean, Miracles had some legendary moments, right? I mean, look, I don't know, it's COD history, right? It's sensational stuff. I think definitely these players are in the conversation. There's other ones you could throw in there as well, but I know that some of the OGs would say, look, it's, none of these new gen guys come close to what we were up to back in the day. Temp says, there's no way, and Donny then says, Scrap should not be on the list just because he's good. This generic trash talk is absolutely terrible. I was walking into people's soundproof booth calling them ... at 15, even talking trash to girl teams. The old generation was just different. So, Donny entertaining as ever, really. But I know there was lots of talk about this over the last couple of days. And even during the weekends, this poem came out here from Zinni. Zuma thought it was, less than entertaining, shall we say. But we've got to talk about the OpTic Texas team, of course, because they turned up to this tournament hoping that a losers bracket run was possible. I think the result that they eventually got was probably pretty expected, really. I think it was just the manner of the defeat to Toronto that was a question mark. I mean, let's not forget that series against Minnesota. After the game one, sure, it was going well, but the game one, they were down pretty big in game one. They brought a big comeback, and that could have been a critical deciding factor for the entire tournament, really. OpTic bringing that Skyline Hardpoint comeback, but, you know, we know that Rocker aren't good. They haven't been great for some time. Estriel's been hard carrying them most of the online split. On LAN, Geo's been substantially better, but Nero has been kind of nowhere for a little while now, but still the potential is there that we know about. And Paul-X has been mostly pretty bad, apart from Major 1, he did okay, which allowed him to keep his spot for another stage. So OpTic beating that team, it's not massively impressive. Now OpTic then, of course, kind of got destroyed by Toronto, especially the round that they choked, the final round of the control. That was real ugly. The search and destroy was real ugly. Game 1, Hardpoint was not close either. And then Toronto went on to beat Thieves. They 3-0'd Thieves off the main stage as well. So, you know, that was then raising the question to say, okay, maybe Toronto are just actually really, really good, and therefore OpTic actually aren't that bad. Which, you know, maybe there's some truth to that. I mean, at the end of the day, COD is matchup dependent. Whenever Thieves play Ravens, they just obliterate them off the face of the planet, Tsar Bomber style. So, you know, and Ravens can do better against other teams. So it is what it is. Sometimes OpTic versus Toronto, I mean, historically, that's not been a good matchup for OpTic. And even with the new players they have, Beans is, you know, I wouldn't say the OpTic killer exactly, but Beans always plays well against OpTic. And Insight and CleanX have a great record against OpTic in their history as well. So it's a team that should and does cause OpTic serious problems, and maybe the result was somewhat expected. But also, Thieves, they weren't playing their best stuff either, right? They bombed out in the first round to the Boston Breach. So the fact that they were defeated by Toronto in that fashion doesn't necessarily absolve OpTic of some criticism, but equally, it's not like you can criticize OpTic much because, well, you can criticize the management of everything and the players for the last month or so, but the performance this tournament, you can't say, oh, well, Skyz, it's time to go, buddy. You played one weekend. Now, I don't think that's what they're going to do. There was quite a lot of talk about it here from JoeDeceives. He was saying how they did the ring ceremony, of course, on the first day, on the Thursday, and, you know, Kenny picked up the ring, which was, of course, a rather nice moment for him, and he was trying to scrim in the back, and they couldn't hear anything because the crowd was going too loud because of the ring ceremony going down on the main stage. Now, Skyz also did talk, though, in some detail about what it was like to play for OpTic. You know, the crowd chanting his name, kind of a tear coming to the eye, right? I mean, definitely, you know, a boyhood dream completed for Skyz, and I think they should keep him around. I just wonder exactly where they do go from here, because Skyz goes into quite some detail on their performance at the major, how they need to improve, and, you know where they're going to go from here to try and get there.
How do you like the crowd chanting your name? I'm not gonna lie, that shit was fucking fire. I did not think I was gonna have a chant, bro. That was fucking crazy, bro. It's extra motivation, bro. Like, y'all almost had the boy shedding a tear when you guys chanted my name, bro. I ain't gonna lie, I was like, holy fuck, bro. It actually felt insane. How'd you enjoy the major? I'm not gonna lie, the fan base was crazy. I can't believe they already gave me a fucking chant. It's kind of crazy to me, but it was fun, but I also wish we had like more time at the same time, just because we didn't really have like S&D strats and shit. It was like kind of a wing one. The Hossie felt good, but I think we played Hossie twice, so we actually were able to talk about it and shit. But the Hardpoint's like the weird one where we need more rest for sure, because there's a lot of situations where we need to be banging together and then like instead of routes. But that one's, I feel like Hardpoint's the one mode that you actually need more time together as a team, so I'm very confident in our search and our control. Minus the Skyline, obviously the Skyline S&D was, we literally didn't have any strats. We didn't even fight A, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think Friday, or no, Thursday, sorry, we were screaming on Thursday, I warm up, a match, and like they were doing the ring ceremony, and they're just fucking, the crowd's erupting, obviously, as they should, but I'm screaming, I can't fucking hear my teammates, because we have like the most default like headsets, so the noise canceling isn't made for a fucking OpTic gaming green wall crowd. Just fucking AIDS, but yeah.
Now, I think for most teams, this idea of, like, the team just needs more practice, need to put in the reps, that definitely applies. I mean, you do tend to see that occasionally a team comes along with limited practice and does really well. There is a general theory, I know that Kenny has said this multiple times in his career, that when you're on a team, you know very quickly whether this team of 4 is going to work or not. And maybe OpTic haven't even had enough time yet with Skyz to know what the answer to that question is. But Kenny has mentioned this. I know that he's mentioned this before. I'm pretty sure it was Kenny anyway. And I do wonder whether the situation at OpTic this year with the Hook situation, the Pred stuff, and maybe that was one of the reasons why Kenny just seemed really checked out, is that Kenny just realized, as far as he was concerned, that this just wasn't going to work again, or it wasn't going to work this time. And of course, if you have that mentality, then it won't work, right? Like, you will basically will that into existence if you're Kenny, and if you're convinced the team won't work, it ain't going to work, and he's then going to be gone. So, you know, you can argue on the mentality of that, but I think there's other players that would agree with this. For example, Seattle Surge or Vancouver Surge, they brought in Neptune. Without much practice, they were very quickly substantially better. Sometimes it just clicks and it works and it really takes off. Now, for most teams, that probably doesn't apply, but I do think that OpTic, you know, if they were going to really turn it around with this roster and they were going to become, you know, FaZe contenders for titles, maybe we would have seen a bit more of that in Texas this past weekend. Not to say that Skyz is like the problem or anything, right? But it's just whether Skyz can solve the problems on his own is a big question. We saw that Surge made that one-man change for Neptune and it completely changed the dynamic and the structure of their team, and they're now substantially better. Whether a similar one-man change for OpTic is good enough is a very valid question, right? But of course, what else could they do? And because they only played a couple of series and one of them was a pretty nice win, they will likely stick it out further, you would think, at least as of recording the video. That's what I may expect to be the case. But yeah, Skyz says that search and destroy strats they just didn't have, so of course that's going to cause problems for them against a Toronto team that are pretty well drilled. And then in Hardpoint saying that they just need to get some more reps in. And yeah, I think that's all probably fair enough. And the question as always remains, if you were going to do something, what would you do and with who, right? Like, I don't think they should be getting rid of Skyz again and bringing somebody else in. You know, the only question really is whether, you know, Pred coming back onto the team has caused some issues which are difficult to resolve, in which case, what do? Bring back Hook or something? I mean, yeah, just tough to say. OpTic are in a tough spot. They may just have to ride out the season, and then at the end of the year, they may have access to other players. But I think this is why some were saying in the off-season, and of course it was very difficult to argue that the OpTic team that just won the World Championship could have done anything with their roster. But my opinion on that OpTic team at the time, and even to this day, is like, well, look, if Formal was on OpTic last year and they just won the World Championship, do you think he's passing up the opportunity when Scrappy and HyDra are on the market to potentially pack a punch? You know, maybe, but maybe not. OpTic decided not to, and totally understandable, but, you know, the top 12 last season at Major 4 showed that there were clearly some cracks in that team. It's definitely a debate as to whether, you know, Scrap and HyDra should have, you know, whether OpTic at least should have had a call or something like that. Because when OpTic ends this season, assuming that they make it to champs, they do okay, but nothing spectacular, they will need to make probably further changes. And where do they go to find the players necessary to try and improve the team? There's a few out there. You know, they could try and get Sib. There's guys like Gwinn. There's guys like JoeDeceives. I mean, maybe even an Estriel is not an impossibility either, depending how you think that might work with Shotzzy. But also then you've probably got Falcons in the conversation too, dropping big bags. Like, that's a possibility, right? So I think it's fascinating to see how this team trends from here. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.